This meeting is being recorded and live streamed on TVW. This meeting's recording will be shared on the HCA website on a page dedicated to SURSAC meeting information. The meeting recording is open to public disclosure requests. Please do not disclose any private or confidential information. We will no longer use a verbal roll call, though this morning we will be using a verbal roll call this morning. And we will ask people to go ahead and we'll ask SURSAC members if you have a moment to enter your full name and the area of representation you serve on on the committee into the chat, so we can be all reminded of the wide range of representation we have on the committee. Language and terminology. Use people first language, e.g. a person experiencing homelessness rather than homeless person. Use the term substance use rather than substance abuse or addiction, which is stigmatizing. Avoid using the term addict, person first language alternative, person with a substance use disorder, or person who uses drugs. When someone forgets to use these terms, assume that their intent is still good and be gentle with the reminder and to use agreed upon language. Guidelines for public feedback. We will usually allocate 10 minutes at the beginning of the meeting and 5 more minutes near the end of the meeting for public comment. Each person will have 3 minutes to provide feedback. Public comment on each agenda item will be invited after the committee has provided its comments, ensuring dedicated time for public input before moving to the next item. If you are not a committee member and would like to comment during a session discussion, please raise your hand to bring it to the facilitator's attention. Feedback that is not provided during this meeting can be submitted via email at any time to hcaesb5476@hca.wa.gov. And then I'll be going ahead and going over attendance this morning before we start. Senator Manka Dhingra. Senator John Braun. Representative Lauren Davis.
Morning.
Morning. Representative Dan Griffey. Caleb Bantagreen.
Present. Morning.
Don Julian Saucer.
Good morning.
Sean Meyer. Alexi Orr.
Good morning.
Amber Cope.
Good morning.
Morning. Brandy Flood.
Present. Good morning.
Morning. Stormy Howe.
Good morning. Present.
Chad Enright.
Good morning.
Morning. John Hayden.
Good morning.
Morning. Nikki Lewis.
Good morning.
Morning. Jerry Candelero.
Good morning. Good morning.
James Tillett.
Good morning.
Morning. Christine Lynch.
Good morning.
Morning. Sarah Gillard. Donnell Tanksley. Malika Lamont.
Present.
Addie Adwell.
Present.
Kevin Ballard. Oh, Kevin. Oh, go ahead, Kevin. Hunter McKim. Representative Jamala Taylor. Anybody's name from the committee I did not call? Or anybody who showed up a little bit later and now they can say their name?
Shanice Q.
I was asking for committee members.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good. Okay. We'll go ahead and move on to the agenda and I'm gonna pass it over to Tony.
All right, thanks so much, Kelly. Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday, April 7th, 20 days left in legislative session. I'm going to provide some HCA announcements and kind of blend into the legislative update. But before doing that, just kind of confirming the agenda for today. After some time for a legislative update, we have Lead Education Series Part 2 with the Lead Support Bureau and guests. And then we have time for RNP Recovery Navigator Program highlights with Susan PC. And in case this is your first time joining this meeting, my name is Tony Walton. I'm a section manager within the Division of Behavioral Health and Recovery at Washington State Healthcare Authority and chair for this committee. A lot's happened in the last month. You know, since we met in March, some proposed budgets were submitted. And just to summarize, when we met in March, Governor Ferguson had just recently released proposed budget reductions. Within those proposed budget reductions was a 50% reduction to our Recovery Navigator program in Washington State. Appreciate everyone's feedback and everyone sharing their experiences with the program and sharing their concerns about reducing RNP by 50%. Since then, the House has proposed a budget, an operating budget for 25 to 27 in the Senate. In the House budget, it included a 10% reduction to Recovery Navigator program. And the Senate proposal included a full removal of the program, so complete elimination of Recovery Navigator program in those proposals. After the House and the Senate released their proposals, Governor Ferguson held another press conference last week and just kind of made some broad overarching comments regarding the proposals, talking about there being too many taxes and specifically delineating some of the things that, he wasn't comfortable with in terms of signing a budget for the next biennium for Washington State. We can get the TBW link to that press conference if anyone is interested. What Governor Ferguson also shared was that he would be releasing concerns letters, just really kind of going line by line through the budget proposals for the Senate and the House, and then that those concern letters, just kind of tracking the next steps in the process, would essentially be utilized as the House and the Senate conference and convene to discuss where their budgets align and where their budgets don't align. And so that's currently where we are with the budget process. Also, I skipped within that time as well, the revenue forecast came out and painted a more grim picture than we had originally anticipated about the revenue forecast for the next 4 years. I think it went from $14 to $16 billion that the Washington State is facing in a budget shortfall. And so all of these things are happening. And meanwhile, there's also some really good legislation moving its way through the legislative session. So just wanted to remind everyone, House Bill 1574, which is significant changes to the Good Samaritan law in Washington State. I believe it passed out of the Senate Policy Committee on April 1st. And so great to see that bill moving along. As everyone might recall, that was a lot of the proposed changes in that bill derived from a SURSAC recommendation back in 2021, 2022. Also, Senate Bill 5361, which would delay implementation of Washington State's adoption of the 4th edition of ASAM to 2028 instead of January 1st of 2026. That as well passed the most recent cutoff. And then in addition to that, something I heard about recently and was introduced recently is House Bill 2038 and Senate Bill 5799. And so I just want to kind of flag those for this committee because we are kind of touching on issues that address behavioral health across the continuum of life experiences. But those bills introduce a youth behavioral health account. And that account would be funded through business and operation tax for social media platforms in Washington State. So we haven't talked about that one previously, but I did want to just kind of briefly kind of flag that one for this committee's awareness. And then another one, House Bill, well, now it's in gross second substitute, House Bill 1432, improving access to mental health and SUD services, continues to make its way through the legislature, as well as substitute House Bill 1811, which has to do with co-response crisis services, which is really integral, especially as we talk about programs like Recovery Navigator Program, law enforcement assisted diversion. Co-response fits within that kind of continuum of services where we're trying to engage with individuals in the community and keep them out of the criminal legal system. Real quick, the last thing I want to touch on, and then we can pivot real quick to discuss a proposal that came up from SURSAC last month about the committee drafting a response to these cuts to Recovery Navigator Program. But real quick, just some good news. Well, not good news. It starts with bad news. I'm sure everyone's aware that the federal government issued some redactions of our COVID enhancement block grant dollars. As a reminder, the COVID enhancement funding included ARPA funding and COVID mitigation funding, and it significantly, millions of dollars that was basically pulled out from underneath Washington State. Several state agencies, the Healthcare Authority and Department of Health, were receiving those dollars. And this unexpected notice of funding reduction came I think early last week. Well, a lot happened last week, so it feels like it was longer than that. Since then, Washington State joined several other states to issue a lawsuit against the federal government's decision to remove that funding and take back that funding. And as of Thursday afternoon, a Rhode Island judge issued a temporary restraining order in that case, the case where several states have filed lawsuit against the federal government and Health and Human Services for that action of taking back the ARPA and COVID enhancement dollars. So I say good news that the temporary restraining order was granted by the judge. Bad news that it happened in the first place, but great to see Washington join several other states to try to address, which was a really unexpected, significantly impactful decision that came from the federal government. Okay, I'm sorry. That was a lot. I apologize. We can get some helpful links into the chat for everyone, and I just want to check time real quick because I know we have guests. And I don't want to kind of take into that time, but I think we have plenty of time. So great. What I wanted to circle back with the committee was the conversation in the March meeting about the committee drafting a letter basically kind of lining out the concerns around Governor Ferguson's proposed reduction of the Recovery Navigator Program by 50%. And I think at this point, it sounds like more than likely expanding it to concerns about the Senate and maybe the House. But I think that's something that we wanted to bring back to the committee for a specific discussion and maybe even a vote as to how to move forward with that. And so we've been talking about it. We got it, met with DBHR leadership, Healthcare Authority leadership, and tried to figure out the best way that the Healthcare Authority, within its kind of administrative role supporting the SURSAC, can best help support, submitting a letter of that nature. And so I'm going to pass it over to Kelly because Kelly's been working over the past 4 weeks, trying to figure out, what the next steps would look like to support SURSAC in that, in creating some sort of response document.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, everybody, for being present this morning. I just want to take just a few minutes to revisit a conversation we started at our last meeting regarding potential items of concern from the committee. Based on the meeting notes, the formal action item captured was to explore options on SURSAC sending a letter/items of concern. Today, I'm here to help facilitate the next step. Specifically, I'd like to ask whether SURSAC is interested in moving forward with submitting letter/items of concern based on the concerns raised previously. The purpose of today's conversation is to gauge interest. Do members want to move forward with an item/letter of concern ABS? We'll then need to vote. When voting, if we can simply, on the letter, it can just be the people who vote yes. It can just be their names. If the whole committee says yes, meaning I get a yes from every committee member, if they're not present now, we can get it via email or phone call, whichever one. Then we can say the whole committee. But if not, we can simply just put the yays on the letter. Identify a SURSAC member who is willing to lead the next steps, including editing and submitting the item/letter of concern on behalf of the committee. HCA staff can provide administrative support, for example, sharing the appropriate distribution list, OFM, Office of Financial Management, the governor's office and such. We can offer those distribution lists, as well as detailed notes on concerns related to a reduction or elimination of RMP funding, which were brought up at last month's meeting. But we will otherwise step back from the process as a result of our role as the executive branch agency. This will also allow the committee to ensure the item/letter accurately voices their concerns. So with that, I'd like to open it up to the committee for discussion and then take a vote to confirm whether SURSAC would like to move forward with this effort.
Real quick before we open it back up to the committee, just to kind of summarize and just add additional clarification. The Healthcare Authority and Executive Branch, we have to support the governor's proposed budget, and that's kind of why when Kelly says take a step back, I think it's noting the role that the SURSAC has within the RCW while trying to still keep our role as an executive branch agency and supporting the governor's office in the budget proposals and budget reductions and budget conversations. And so at the same time, we took really detailed notes as to what we heard back in March. I want to, kind of just reinforce that we obviously are tracking this. This is a program that the Division of Behavioral Health and Recovery and Medicaid Programs Division within HCA have been supporting and leading for almost 4 years now. And we see the impacts of RNP within the community. We see the impacts across the state. And so we know that this is of significance. And so trying to balance those two things, obviously being intertwined within the administration and implementation and ongoing support for the program, as well as supporting the governor's proposal of a 50% reduction of it. And so with that, we need to bring it back to the committee for somebody within the committee to make a motion to draft the letter and somebody to second it and then take a vote. And then if we have a majority, then identifying the specific next steps, which Kelly summarized in terms of having a point person in the committee that would basically corral other committee member involvement and getting input. And then we can send the relative distribution lists for that letter, those communications to go to the governor's office, OFM, and relative legislative members. Any questions before or comments from committee members?
Can see Caleb. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question, and it sounds like unfortunately Malika's sound might be bad, but if Malika could also speak a little bit about what Vocal has been doing around education on this and some of the letters they put forward, that would be helpful. I'm in a position as a state employee where I'm often able to make policy endorsements pretty readily, and budget ones are more difficult. So it'd be helpful to know what the structure of this would be. And also, I think it would be relevant for folks to know what some of the actions have already been.
Yeah, that's a great point. I saw a King 5 newsreel come out, and I understand there to be several letters submitted. Oh, sorry, Malika, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead and finish, Tony.
No, I was just going to say, several letters submitted even from the Washington State Association of Drug Court Professionals, basically just kind of further communicating how Recovery Navigator Program does support public safety efforts across the state. It supports having a continuum of services across the sequential intercept model and helping connect individuals with housing and addressing homelessness. Public Defenders Association at the Washington State has also been helping to corral input. And so,
And to answer your question, Caleb, I feel like this is both a policy and a budget consideration. Because if we don't have the ability for folks, on a statewide level for people to be able to be supported, and we're not taking that policy approach of saying that this is how we want to address SUD and supporting individuals with behavioral health issues. Because if the funding goes away, then the infrastructure goes away as well. So, and that has been, it seems like it continues to be the policy direction that we want to have as a state. However, it can't happen without money to be able to have that infrastructure across the state. So that's what I would, I don't know if that helps you answer the question about whether or not you would be able to do this or not. But that I think that as a state, we have continued to lean into the policy direction of recognizing that substance use disorder and mental health issues are better addressed with supports in the community from a policy perspective. And so, if we don't have the dollars to support that policy, that's an issue. Does that help?
Yeah, I'll just say for myself, and I don't know about other organizations or nonprofits, the policy ask is, we've already done one of those for this about a month. The School of Medicine did. I was able to work on that. The budget one just becomes difficult, and I have to do more work on the side, so I may or may not be able to vote today.
Okay.
Not because I don't want to, but because of the process here.
Okay. Well, I would like to motion as a member of the SURSAC that we put this forward to the group for a vote.
I would like to second that.
So all in favor, raise your electronic hand. I don't know.
hold on 1 second.
Oh.
Just, I'm sorry, for purposes of the record, we had 2 people second it simultaneously. I just need to, who was the first to second that motion?
Julian?
Awesome. Thank you, Julian. And then just because we tried the raise handing in the past when we were doing recommendations for the SURS plan, let's just, because this is really important, we want to make sure we get it right. Let's just do a verbal, we'll go through the list of everyone that's here and do a yay, nay for purpose of moving forward. So Kelly, you want to do that?
Mm-hmm. I'll be calling roll call again. This roll call is to say yay, you would be in support of SURSAC submitting a letter to the governor's office, or nay, you would not be in support of that, or I guess you could abstain as well. Senator Munka Dingra?
She's not here.
Oh yeah, actually I can just go through the people who are here. And if I get to the end and you weren't here in the beginning, then you can say something, then I can come back to you. Representative Lauren Davis.
I'm certainly supportive. I'll probably have to check. I mean, I'm sort of sending a letter to myself, so I might have to ask our ethics people if I formally have to abstain, but obviously I'm supportive. I'll find out.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. Caleb Bansigreen, you ought to find out as well, or?
Yeah, I need to go figure out what's up.
Okay. Don Julian Saucier?
Certainly.
Okay. Alexi Orr?
Yes.
Amber Cope?
Yes.
Brandy Flood?
Yes.
Stormy Howe?
Yes.
Chad Enright?
I'm going to vote nay. I think it's outside our statutory role.
Okay. John Hayden,
Yes.
Nikki Lewis,
Yes.
Sherry Candelero,
Yes. Yes.
James Tillett,
Yes.
Christine Lynch,
Yes.
I'm pretty sure this is a yes because you motioned it, but Malika Lamont,
Yes.
Addie Atwell.
Yes.
Okay, I have two people who had to temporarily abstain, finding out pending if they can vote or not. And then I had everybody vote yes, that's present today, with the exception of one nay. Is there anybody's name that should have been called that came here a little bit late that would like to take a vote that is a committee member? Okay. 1, 11, 12. So I have 12 yays, 1 nay, and 2 abstentions right now.
So I think, yeah, so that would mean that that motion passed. And so what we can do is now just need to find somebody on the committee who is willing to take point. Like I said, we already kind of put out several bullet points based on the feedback that we heard back in March, and we can send that kind of draft list of responses, list of concerns to that point SURSAC committee member. And we can even put on SharePoint if that's helpful as well. But we do need somebody to kind of work with to kind of take lead on, from the committee standpoint, drafting up that response and that letter. And so, any nominations or volunteers?
So are you essentially saying we have to write it ourselves, which is fine? I'm just trying to make sure I understand what the ask is.
Yeah, essentially, yes, you have to write it yourselves, but we have some good starting points that you can use.
Okay. I'm willing to support in any way that's helpful.
And then just flagging in the chat, Rep. Davis did note that in order for this to be relevant, it would need to get turned around ASAP. And so, I guess this is something where we would want, whomever is identified from the committee to lead the drafting of the letter and submitting it to the distribution list that we'll get to you probably by the end of this week or sooner.
We got to work with. Malika?
I mean, timeline isn't a problem. I'm just saying I'll help. If I didn't know if other people wanted to jump in or not. I wasn't trying to dominate.
I didn't hear anybody else, so appreciate you volunteering, Malika.
Okay.
And taking it on. And so, and thanks for allowing time. Oh, James?
James has his hand up.
Hey, good to see you, James.
Good to see you. I have a question. Would it be, and I know we have a quick turnaround, but would it be impactful to have individuals that have engaged with the RNP program to send supporting letters if they wanted to also? Because I feel like their experience is something that needs to be heard to really show why it needs to be, continued.
That has been impactful that's been happening from people around the state.
And so, James, with Malika volunteering to take lead on behalf of the committee to draft something and submit it, if you have any of those letters, please forward them to Malika. And then what we'll do is go ahead.
Only if they haven't already been sent, because a lot of people have already sent stuff. So if they haven't been sent, then send them to me. But if not, they've already been sent.
That makes sense. Any other comments from committee members or questions? I just realized we're now over time, but I think that's okay. We can make up for it somewhere else. I'm glad we had this conversation. We did have a question. What is RNP? Teresa, that's the acronym, or the initialism stands for Recovery Navigator Program, and we can get you the fact sheet. Maybe somebody from HCA can put the fact sheet link and other helpful links in the chat so Teresa and others who may be new to this meeting have that kind of background information. And then Julian and Malika, just tracking that you saw in the chat that Julian indicated he'd be happy to work with you on this as well. So we will, as soon as this meeting is over, or at least by noon, send out kind of like the draft bullet points that we have listed, that we kind of compiled. And then we'll also get the distribution lists over to you, Malika, by the end of the day, hopefully. If not today, tomorrow. Today's kind of busy.
I'll be in contact with you, Malika, for just different helping points and such, and anything I can do to help support with the letter and such, and distribution lists and everything. So I'll be sending out the email to you today, or most likely today. I think we can hand it back over to Blake.
Yeah, sorry, real quick, Blake. I just I know we're 5 minutes over time, but if we could just take 5 minutes, it's not on the agenda, but just open it up for public comment. And then we'll just, we'll plan on starting the lead education series at 9:40.
Okay, thank you. Public comment. So members of the public, if you'd like to make any comments, please go ahead and raise your hand virtually, please. All right, Kimmy.
I just wanted to say I did drop the King 5 news story in the chat for anybody that wanted to check it out.
Any other public comment at this point? And I don't see any hands. So any next on the agenda, real quickly, does any SURSAC member have an announcement or any comments that they would like to make before we get into our lead education series part 2? Malika, go ahead.
So I know that it was mentioned earlier that 1574 was moving forward. I just want to make sure that folks realize that it is not the same as it originally was. The original language has changed pretty significantly, and from our perspective, it's not as protective of people that would be seeking supports as people that as institutions that might be providing those supports. And a lot of the language in the bill has become more convoluted in favor of law enforcement. So, and actions that could be taken against people if they were calling for help. So I just want to make sure that people understand that it is not the same bill as it was originally, and to read it carefully before you provide advice to individuals in the field.
All right, thank you. Caleb.
Yeah, hey, just to provide some additional context. The House bill was pretty robust with 4 components. The Senate bill got substantially reduced, and a lot of the language really kind of reduced further, and it really is much more convoluted than it was. Just so folks know, it is an attempt to expand the Good Samaritan protections much narrower than it was. It basically, I won't go through all of it, but add some protections around probation violations related to drug possession, which is quite narrow. It is more than there is now, but it is quite narrow. It does also allow for healthcare facilities to distribute safer use supplies, which was pretty important to a lot of University of Washington physicians who wanted to do that. And then for the HCA funded community drug checking network projects, it clarifies some language that was omitted last year, which is it adds protections for clients at drug checking programs, not just staff and volunteers. So it is a sort of net expansion, but it's definitely much weaker than the original House version. And so now it's going to go back to the House and continue to get negotiated. So I would think there's a chance to still hopefully weigh in with some of the legislators. And I actually don't know. I don't know if Rep. Davis is here and can clarify. I don't know if it would be direct requests or communications or education with the folks on that House committee that Chair Goodman runs. I don't know what the right way is to do further education, but it was, and then a major reduction, which is it took out the piece which allowed, which is it's just classic politics. It was to remove the poison pill, which allowed local municipalities to prohibit harm reduction programs in their communities, which has happened in some of our communities. I see Rep. Davis has their hand up, and hopefully will give us some clarity.
Yeah, Rep. Davis,
you know,
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, and then we'll get to
sorry.
Malika.
Yeah, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but I mean, the bill was actually amended before it even left the House to remove I would say what was the primary benefit of the bill, which was addressing the harmful language that was in 5536 related to imbuing local authorities, local governments with the ability to prohibit harm reduction programs. It's particularly unfortunate to see that removed because there was a commitment made to the House Democratic Caucus when 5536 passed 2 years ago to address that. However, there's the political realities, and there was advice from the Senate given to the House that the bill would have a much smoother path in the Senate if that were removed. And then the bill was further narrowed in the Senate Law and Justice Committee with a striking amendment by Senator Dingra. So I don't, from a feasibility perspective, I'm not sure that I see a world in which like that gets amended on the Senate floor, for instance, to expand it again. I think that's politically extremely unlikely. It would be a huge floor fight. And then when it returns to the House, it's merely an up or down vote in a process called concurrence and dispute. You know, the House would have, if the House were to stand our ground, which again, our ground wasn't, it was better than what's currently alive in the Senate, but it had already stricken the local authority around harm reduction citing. We would have to then refuse to concur in the Senate amendment, send it back. But the way that negotiations work is the deference is going to be given to the chair of the policy committee in the particular chamber. So that's going to be Goodman in the House or Dingra in the Senate. And Dingra was the author of the striking amendment that narrowed the bill. So it's unlikely that you would see it expanding again on the Senate side. So not to say that resistance is futile, but I just from a pragmatic perspective, it's a hot button issue. I'm not sure it will be a very modest gain to get the bill passed, but I'm not sure it's realistic at this juncture. I think we have a lot more education to do broadly of lawmakers around these issues.
Thank you, Rep. Davis. Malika, go ahead.
Bottom line from Vocal's perspective is it makes individuals on the ground and individuals delivering services outside of public health departments more vulnerable. So I just want folks to recognize that.
Thank you. Rep. Davis, you have another comment? Rep. Davis?
Sorry, I thought I was putting my hand down. I didn't need to put
Oh,
it
no,
up again.
no worries. No worries. Okay, thank you for the comments. Appreciate those. Tony, would you like to introduce our next guest?
Yeah, just real quick. First, any public comments on that conversation? Anybody from the public that wanted to weigh in on the conversation around 1574? Thanks for bringing that up, Malika and Caleb and Rep. Davis for your input. And flagging, Emily, Here we go from Department of Health noted for budget awareness, the House bill does not contain about $7 million for naloxone that the Senate bill contains, and the naloxone funding in the Senate bill is about $3 million less than what is currently funded. So we're seeing in terms of the budget conversation and proposed reductions, some reductions to the current influx of naloxone in Washington State potential. And then finally, before I can definitely introduce our next guest, but just wanted to flag James. Love seeing what you're doing. Just want to make sure you knew your camera was on. I think you did. I mean, maybe you didn't, but I don't know. I felt like, well, I saw some toys and I was like, James is toy shopping, and that is awesome. All right, real quick, moving on. All right, so, and we're a little bit behind schedule, but I think we can make it up because we did allow 10 minutes for reviewing next month's agenda, and we can possibly just do that through email. But want to introduce the Lead Support Bureau to bringing us part 2 of the Lead Education series. Just as a reminder for everyone, we did this fun mural exercise, or maybe it was a Menti exercise. No, it was a mural exercise. And we kind of talked to the committee, and we also got public input as to for what in 2025 they wanted to hear more about. And maybe at the next meeting, we can kind of show everyone what we have planned for the rest of the year. Because we had some great stuff, and we got people from Oregon coming. We have research and data analysis coming to talk about the current state assessment. But one of the highest voted proposals on that was an education background and education series on the LEAD model, law enforcement assisted diversion. And so we had round 1, not last month, but the month before, I think. And then so we're on to part 2 of that series. And so for the agenda just says Lead Support Bureau. But I'm just going to pass it off to Malika, because Malika, I think you're kicking this part 2 off, and appreciate you and others being here.
Yes, thank you. I will need y'all's help though, because the individuals that are part of the Jefferson County Policy Coordination Group, I don't know what way works best for HCA for you to identify yourselves, but I was wondering if you could pin them. You don't need to pin me, but
When you say pin, do you mean spotlight? So everybody's
yes, sorry,
yeah,
we use Zoom, not.
Yeah. So I can do up to 7 people or 7 camera. I guess 7 people signed in individually camera. If they just want to identify themselves in the chat, maybe that might be easiest. I don't because it's 93 people right now.
Dr. Gabby Caudill is one of the people, and then
Brett Anglin from JCSO, Richard Davies, and Anna Phillips. I'm not sure if Chief Olson is here or not.
Brett, who?
Brett Anglin.
I got him. Spotlight. Yeah. Okay. Then, yeah, you get the other ones. I missed.
You do. And then you said, so who's after Brett? Brett?
Oh, Anna Phillips.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we're getting this. All right, here we go. No, this is cool. I didn't even know we could do this. All right, and Malika, I'm spotlighting you too. There you go.
Oh,
whether or not you want it, you're spotlighted too. All right, so and then Richard Davies. Let's get Richard. I saw you earlier, Richard.
I got it. All right.
Is that everyone, or do we miss anybody?
Where's the chief? Or do we?
I'm not sure if the chief is here. I didn't see his name on there.
Okay, and do you want to put some of your staff in or no? Because I thought they're here.
They are here. I think they just want to listen. They'd probably kill me if I made them talk.
Okay. So today, the goal is for SURSAC members to start to understand one of the core elements of the LEAD model, which is the policy coordination group. And we often talk about it's a group of unlikely partners that come together, but they create the magic sauce of what is LEAD. and they provide the guidance for how it will, according to the model of how it will function in their community, and hash out what collaboration will look like, what the divertible offenses will be in the community, and what the referral process would be, and a number of other elements that help to design the program. So even though the LEAD model is, I wouldn't say static, but it is a specific thing, and it's a specific process, it guides partners to create their unique implementation of the LEAD model in their community. And so today, we have a few questions, and everybody feel free to answer them. I'm hoping this will be more like a conversation. And then if everybody can introduce themselves first, and then I'll ask the questions, and then I'd like everybody to answer it from their own perspective. Does that sound okay? Yeah. Gabby, would you like to start off with the introductions and then pass it off to the next person so that people know what roles are here today?
Sure. My name is Dr. Gabby Caudell, and I'm the director of Gateway to Freedom, which houses the LEAD program in Jefferson County. Anna?
I'm Anna Phillips, and I'm a senior deputy prosecuting attorney, and I represent our office in the LEAD policy group and in the working group. Oh, Brett?
I'm Brett England, Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. I'm a patrol sergeant. I represent our office in both the policy and the operational work group. Richard.
My name is Richard Davies. I am the director of an independent nonprofit that provides public defense to Jefferson County courts and involved in the local LEAD program. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. So the first question that I would like for us to think about is an answer, please. In what ways do you find the LEAD model to be impactful compared to traditional practices? With the understanding that you are in a small community and have been working together for years, as a group, from all of your perspectives, can you share with us what you think? Again, I'll read the question. Oh, okay, go ahead, Brett. Anyway, do you?
Yeah, I guess I'll start. So as a very rural law enforcement agency, we have less than 32,000 residents. We have traditionally very few resources to guide individuals away from substance use or unwanted community behavior, I would say. Our traditional practices included basically jail, probation, and drug court, right? LEAD in our community has been successful for one primary reason, and that is that they answer the phone and they actually show up and do something. They show up at our scenes. They have a mutual respect for not only the job that we do, but overall safety of the community. This built trust with our local law enforcement, and the trust that they will report community safety issues with us and work with us when necessary. They also built trust in that they will tirelessly work for their individuals to steer them towards a better life, however that may look for them. I think that's all I have.
Who are you going to kick it to?
Go ahead, Anna.
All right. So from the prosecutor's perspective, I think that for a long time, we did things that kind of looked like LEAD, but a lot of our practices were informal. So because we're small, we could pick up the phone and call each other and say, hey, and I'm also the juvenile court prosecutor, so I do this a lot there. And I would call different community partners, like I would call Gabby, or Richard might call me and say, hey, what can we do with this case? And I might get a call from law enforcement. So I think one of the critical things that LEAD did was it formalized and gave some structure to a lot of our informal community practices. And of course, beyond that, it's funded. So it's paid for. But where we normally would collaborate in many ways before we had LEAD, this formalized it. And that also brings with it kind of a social stamp of approval and saying this is what people want. We want to see more of this and we want it formalized. So because we're small, we had a lot of connection to each other anyway. We're all on a first name basis. All of the people who appear today are in my phone. I can call them or text them at any time and they can do the same for me. But having another formal channel, I think, is something that gives it strength and it gives it community credibility as well. So I think that that's one of the main things that I would say in response to your question. And I'm going to pass it to Richard.
All right. In terms of LEAD and its effect on my clients, they get support in the field with people who are looking to help them move in a positive direction. It allows Brett and the other people that work law enforcement to make a referral to something other than the legal system, with the support there to, actually guide people in a more positive direction if that's what they want to do. There are some 50 people in the LEAD program presently, and those are 50 people that aren't on my caseload. They may be in my caseload in different capacities, but it provides the support that people need and keeps them out of the legal system that, has had positive effects on people in the past. But this is a far better way for to get people to realize that they can change the way they're living.
I will say there's actually 74 people in LEAD.
Thank you for that correction, Dr. Cottle. Would you like to share any other thoughts about how you see the LEAD? As the project manager, and then also there's a clinical team that you're associated with that's in the community, clinical and peer-driven team. How would you say that? Why did you want to bring it to your community, and how has it been impactful?
I think the main reason I wanted to bring it to our community, I've been working in the behavioral health field for 12 years, running a program in the jail. I see a lot of the same people in and out of there pretty consistently, and just wanting to, I guess, have a different option for people, meeting them where they're at. I've learned that not everybody wants to be sober and not everybody can make it through a traditional court system, and just giving people the opportunity to find stability within themselves and offering those chances for people. That's kind of why I wanted to bring this to our community. And we had an outreach team prior to formalizing it into a LEAD program. And I think that just having the structure of LEAD has been pretty impactful for us. And I think having the ability just to call, like Anna and Brett both said, like just to be able to call and say, hey, I haven't seen this person in a few days. Can you help us go find them? Can you let your guys know that we're looking for them? Have you seen them? And just having that ability to call them and they can call us too. And having them partner with us has been huge.
Thank you. So now we're going to shift a little bit and talk about how has the LEAD model influenced your approach to addressing probable charges and diversion opportunities for people. So I guess maybe more like, what did that process look like in your policy development? And if nothing has changed, let's talk about that too.
All right, I'll go first. So our elected James Kennedy was the policy leader in the development of the policies that we would utilize. And I'm acting now on the implementation side, and then also on when we need to make changes to policy or adjust our policies in any way. But I am familiar with the policies, and I can tell you that it was really critical for everyone, all the stakeholders, to be involved in the development of the policies, because one of the most important things that makes LEAD work is buy-in. And so when all of the stakeholders, or each of the stakeholders, feels that they've been heard and feels that whatever their values are, or whatever their goals are, or whatever their overarching policies of their office are being heard and represented in the document, then once we get to the implementation, we're all on the same page, and we feel comfortable and confident in the cases that we're bringing into LEAD. There were some very specific kind of cases that we did not want to see in LEAD, things like DUIs and other public safety cases that we just felt were not appropriate to have in the LEAD process, regardless of whether other jurisdictions or other policy groups thought that they were or do include them. So having that buy-in from the beginning, having all the stakeholders at the table when you're writing the initial policies, I think was really critical. And I think that having that buy-in is what keeps our momentum. And as we've needed to adjust, we've been able to do that through the policy group. I don't remember the rest of the question, but I think if it had to do with charges and diversion opportunities, was that part of it? Okay, so I think that, again, we're a small county, so we the cases that my office, in terms of the prosecuting authority, is primarily interested in LEAD are the cases that are pre-filing referrals. So we do also have social contact referrals, and I'm part of the discussion of those when we're in LEAD, because some of the people who are social contact referrals are already in court with other cases. They could be felony cases or district court cases. So of course I track those, but the cases in which I have a primary interest are going to be the pre-filing cases that I need to keep track of and see how the person is doing, so that we can decide whether they're going to stay in the program or be referred to court. That's kind of the carrot and stick part of LEAD. And those are the pre-charging cases. With regard to those, I don't think that it hasn't had a huge impact on our caseload, again, because we're small. But part of what's really important is, as Gabby was saying, some of the people who we see through LEAD are people who we have seen for years coming through our system, and nothing's really helped. So there are people very familiar to my office and people who we would like to see not anymore in our office. And so I think that we do see a concentration of people like that who come into LEAD. So they may have pending cases. So it might just be one case, their newest case, that comes to LEAD. They may have a case that comes to LEAD and still have another case in Superior Court in felony land that is not in LEAD. But it's trying to take an overall look at what the end game is for that individual and that person. So I don't think it's greatly decreased our caseload. I think that it has forced us to really look at what's the end game for this individual in the community. This person is going to be in the community. If this person goes to prison on another case, they're going to come back to the community. And so how can we support them in any way possible? And this LEAD is one of those. I don't think it's had a huge impact on our numbers. Brett.
Okay, I won't add too much to that, but I will say that from my perspective, it probably does have an impact on the numbers. It's just the timing is completely, for lack of a better word, messed up, right? Because we had back when drugs were a felony. And then we did nothing to them. And then it was kind of a Blake fix. And then there was the Blake warning. And now we're into this, right? So there was that period of time where we weren't really doing anything with drug enforcement whatsoever. Well, now we've just changed that a little bit over the time. And now we're more trying to focus this towards, Gabby's team and lead is what we're doing. So a lot of it does bypass the prosecutor. Because it basically streamlined that process, right? We took these people from the street and are pointing them directly to her people who can hopefully point them in a little bit better direction. So, and they're not in our jail. So from the jail's perspective, it probably hasn't changed a whole lot because they weren't going to jail the 3 years prior to that anyway, right? We just weren't enforcing that side of the crime or that side of the law. So anyway, Richard, you got anything else to add?
Well, I do. It has a huge impact for my clients. If they're pre-file, those are cases that don't arrive on my desk. Although, as we've said, we know most of the people that are in the LEAD program. It's a way to better their lives and give them the services that they need. And in the past, it would be filing some sort of charge and then hoping that they're going to respond in a positive way to probation. This way, there is no charge, but they get the services that they need in the hopes that they don't end up on my desk or in court again. It's a significant change of how the system works and helps people, get into a better way of being.
Thank you, Richard. Did you have anything you want to add, Gabby?
I think they've summed it up very well.
All right. So this next question, I think it may not be a very long answer because you've already talked about, you have each other on speed dial, but what strategies have you implemented to ensure effective communication and collaboration with service providers within the LEAD model? So like the case management team.
Right.
I feel like,
sorry.
go ahead.
Well, so I'll start by highlighting the fact that we all know each other and have for a long period of time. In terms of social contact, in terms of getting people into the program, I've called law enforcement, the sheriff, the city police. I've got somebody that's charged with a shoplift who is homeless, and it's not anything to do with the shoplifting charge, but I've called law enforcement and said, boy, can you make the social contact referral and get the person the assistance of LEAD? And at least on a number of occasions, that has resulted in my clients getting housed. And, again, once they're stabilized and have a roof over their head, they're able to make, better choices for themselves and for the community.
And I'll add on to that. The public defender is calling law enforcement. Come on, right? But I'll add more to that, and that to make a program like this, I believe, successful, I think an agency really needs to have community policing at the top of their priorities, meaning a law enforcement agency. This includes having our agency heads, mine specifically, knowing that the performance metrics that they see every day are a mere and a direct reflection of the outcome that they desire in a sense. So, it's difficult to say that an agency is dedicated to community policing if the performance metrics are based on like prosecutions, arrests, and citations, right? The end goal for all of our disciplines in this right here is community safety. And how we achieve that goal is basically where our partnership here lies, I believe. And like Richard said earlier, having each one of us on speed dial, knowing each one of us, knowing that I can call him, he can call me, I can call Anna or Dr. Caudill, is really imperative for this. And it trickles down through really the boots on the ground from there.
And I'd really like to highlight, along with that, the defense attorney called law enforcement to make that referral, that there was no net widening that occurred and there was no extra charge that occurred. It was purely because you have built a relationship through this process, and also you had relationships in the past. But I remember, Richard, when this first started, you called me and you called the TA team and you were like, "Is this for real?" And I was like, "Yes, it's for real." and and you were like, "Okay, I'm going to go to the meeting." Anyway, and so like this is like that trust process. These years later, you can say, "I know that with confidence I can call this officer and that this referral will be made in good faith." And it's not because there's going to be a charge attached to it. It's because it's the right thing for the person that needs the support. And that doesn't happen very often without the structure and the formalization. I don't think that, that LEAD brings to the table, is what I'm hearing you say. Would you agree with that, or do you think?
No, absolutely. And it's not just that we're able to, talk to one another and make referrals. It's that there's a program for people to participate in. It's not just another, a telephone call. There are people, that is the people that work with Dr. Caudill, who will show up and help however they can move my client in a direction that they want to go.
Thank you.
I think real quick, just for us in the planning and implementation part of this program, one of the first things that I heard in a LEAD TA meeting was to move at the speed of trust. And that has stuck with me this entire time, both with program stakeholders and with the participants, and just being able to take things slowly. Like Brett said earlier, answering the phone, showing up when we're asked to. Everybody that's enrolled in the program, we only take law enforcement and prosecutor referrals at this time. So it's not like we have the, gas stations or quick marts calling us about people that are camping in front of their stores. We only take referrals from our partners. And I think having that and having all of our participants sign that release of information for our partners so that we can call them and say, "Hey, we're worried about this person. Can we find them together? Can you have your guys let us know?" And they'll call us, even if it's 3:00 in the morning, they will call us and say, "Hey, we're out with this person. What can we do?" And I think having that collaboration and that trust with them has been huge for effective communication.
Thank you. So moving on to our next question. It's building on what we've already kind of talked about. In what ways has your perception of community safety and well-being evolved since partnering with the LEAD model?
Okay, I'll go first. So this is my 30th year as a prosecutor. I came from a really large jurisdiction in which I don't know if they have any, they probably have something like this now, but I worked in an office with 1,000 prosecutors. And when I first started, the end game was, especially the people that I was dealing with, was what's the longest period of time that I can take this person off the street. But, over time, each of us has had experiences and we mature. So when I deal with cases now, no matter how serious they are, or if it's a less serious case that we have in LEAD, I look at every case and say, what is the end game? What do I want for this individual person in terms of community safety, in terms of rehabilitation, in terms of justice for victims? I look at every every person, whether it's from lead to the most serious case that I handle. And I think that what lead has done is it's given me, again, that trust that Gabby's talking about. I always trusted the people who are at this table today, but it's given us that strong framework because from the prosecutor's point of view, we want to see things through to the end. And when I send a person, or I don't send them, when law enforcement refers a person to lead, and I become aware of it, and I know that they could be, it's a pre-charging referral, I know that the end game that's important to me and to my office, which is community safety. We know this person will be living in our community probably forever. And so the best outcome for them is the best outcome for our community. So having this formal channel is, I think, reassuring to our office, and it formalizes that trust and that process, so that when I come back to say what is the end game as a prosecutor of public safety, we don't really have victim crimes that come through lead, but we had one that came through of somebody who siphoned gas from somebody's camper. And I had to figure out, from our perspective, we wanted that person to be made whole. Maybe it was $50, $100 worth of gas. I can't remember exactly right now. It was one of our really early cases. So we had to kind of struggle with that a little bit and work through that, because from my perspective and the prosecutor's perspective, it was really important for that person who lost their gasoline and had damage to was on an RV, to where the gas went into their RV, to be made whole. So our team worked together to figure out that, I said, if this person wants to participate, they're going to need to pay restitution. And the entire team, for the $100 or whatever it was a struggle. We had to figure out, it was like a money order in the end that ended up getting, and Gabby's people helped, and we figured out from the victim, and the victim wanted, they were happy with lead. They were excited to hear that there was lead. And so this is just like a small case that came through that we really had to kind of work and struggle through to get to the end game, which was the best outcome for the person who had committed the offense, because they would be a member in our community for a long time. And that case really worked out. And that the victim be made whole, from the prosecutor's perspective. And I think we got the money order and we got it mailed there. But I think that having this formalized program and having the trust makes our office feel that we are still doing our job. Brett.
Yeah, and I'll add, from my perspective, when I first heard of this, I'm like, there is no way this is going to work in a rural county like ours. I mean, it's like 2 hours from one end to the other. There is absolutely no way, because I knew, number one, this isn't going to work if no one shows up and tries to divert this person away from this business or this problem area or something, or intervene somehow. And I had a lot of reservations on that. I talked to Gabby quite a bit. I'm like, you're going to have people show up Friday night at 2 o'clock in the morning? She's like, yep. I'm like, whatever. The only people that show up at 2 o'clock in the Friday morning is cops and firefighters. And she did. The very first one was in Brennan, and it's all the way in this mountain, and it's it's an hour away from the nearest population. And they got somebody there. The person was removed from the area, which was probably the most important thing, because that was a victim type crime. It was just a theft. But the last thing that person who's reporting the theft wants to see is the cops to show up and just leave the guy and drive away, right? Something needs to happen. And having a partner that makes sure that something happened, I think, is very important, especially in a rural community like ours, where it's a long way from one side to the other.
Anybody else want to share anything? We have one more question. Thank you. How does lead affect your options and actions in your role? That's the final question.
Well, also I'll start there. I'm talking to law enforcement in a situation that isn't a cross-examination in court. So again, I'm able to call law enforcement and say, I'd like to make a referral for a social contact. It's got nothing to do with the underlying charge. And I know that that's going to be taken seriously, that the law enforcement will then refer the case to lead, and my client's going to get the support that they desperately need. And yeah, it's that's how it's changed the way I do my job.
I can say for us, it's quite a bit. It kind of changes the, I guess, the way we do things. Before this sort of thing went from cops to jail, from jail to prosecutor, defense, and then potentially to Gabby's team of treatment, right? And this completely streamlines and flips that on its head, right? It puts from cops directly to treatment, bypasses the other two. And where really before, I rarely talked to partners in treatment. I never really had much to do with them, right? Until a program like this. And that really streamlined it. And I think it just made it a lot quicker for things to occur. And it also ensured a lot more better outcomes because someone was there doing something now. And the problem with the court system is it's going to be 6 months from now, at least.
I would say for us, in terms of options, we've already talked about how this is another option, but one of the things that it changes for us with our actions is that we've been able to look at other cases that our office could send to lead potentially that were not sent by law enforcement. And one category would be cases that were not chargeable because there was insufficient evidence for charging, but and for whatever reason, the case was not referred by law enforcement to lead. And so we could look at those cases and say, look, this is not a chargeable case as it stands. But when we look at this person, whether they're a person who is known to us or somebody who looks like they could use support, we can take a case that's not chargeable and we can refer that case kind of back down to lead as a social contact referral. And so that's just another option for us instead of just saying, well, we can't charge this case and not doing anything with it. So it's just kind of another back channel way to help people after we've actually reviewed the case. And I would say in terms of actions, we do have some cases that are in the court system already where we've seen our district court judge refer somebody to lead. And this is basic. I mean, that's not really a normal channel, but what it tells you is there's community awareness that this is another channel and it's basically another access point for people for services and support. And so I think that there's a general awareness in the county through the entire system, including with our judge and district court, that this is another access point for services. So she might have, or our office, or the public defender. So there might be somebody who's already charged and their case is going to proceed through court. We'll see what happens with their case. But they, at the same time, can be involved in a parallel process and be involved with lead for services. And I'm not the district court prosecutor, but I could foresee situations where if somebody had already been charged, we had some cases that were pre-lead before we were kind of up off the ground, where we talked about what that might look like. And if the person were successful in lead, might we dismiss the court case? We haven't had that situation happen yet, but I think that we're open to that in terms of our options and our actions, which is what you asked about. So just having that awareness by all of the partners, including the court who knows about it and says, hey, you know, maybe you want to check out lead, even if you're in my court, even if your case is going to proceed through here. That's another option. And I know that we think about it in every step, whether it's a case we reviewed and cannot charge, maybe the person could benefit, maybe the person is charged and in court, and if they are successful in lead, we might consider dismissing their case, things like that. So I would say that those are the primary ways that it's influenced our actions. And it's, of course, another great option.
Thank you all. Oh, go ahead, Dr. Caudill.
I just want to add that our team is out there being super proactive. They're busy. Like I said earlier, there's 74 active clients right now. And in the month of March, our 6 case managers did 179 contacts with those 74 people. So they're busy. And some of those contacts were with law enforcement. Some of them were not. Some of them were getting them to the court system where they do have active other cases, or taking them to appointments, or just connecting with them, offering support. And I mean, this program has greatly expanded both our operational capacity and the depth of our service delivery model that we're able to provide. And overall, I think it's been great. I mean, this program wouldn't work without the prosecutor and law enforcement and Richard's office too. I mean, the partnership is incredible.
Thank you all for your work, and thank you for participating in this panel. We'd like to open it up to the folks in the audience if there's people that would like to ask questions. I think HCA is okay with that. Kelly?
You unmuted. Yeah, 5 minutes should be good. We got time for 5 minutes.
I see a hand, Marshall Reinsch.
Yes, you got it right. I'm Marshall Reinsch. I'm with Community House Mental Health in the Outpatient Competency Restoration Program. I'm the peer sports specialist there. And I kind of stepped in a little already into this conversation. I was actually on the phone with somebody from LEAD, helping coordinate a check-in with somebody who's in both our program and the LEAD program. And I just wanted to say that it's been very helpful so far. We've had a few people that have been going throughout competency restoration, along with already having a LEAD referral. And it's been a really good partnership. The few folks that we've worked with, we've had great communication. They've supported those clients where they really needed to get to appointments that were important both for us and for their other court hearings. And I think it's a great thing that you guys are doing. It's helped us provide wraparound services and be really comprehensive. So you guys are doing a great job. Thanks.
Thank you for that feedback. Are there any other questions or comments?
There's one question in the chat, Malika, and I'm just reading from the chat. It says, what's the cost of this? Does it save money?
So we don't necessarily look at LEAD as initially that was, it saves money. That's why you should do it. We many years now later, because this all launched, in let's see here, 2011. These years later, we recognize that the goal should not necessarily be for it to cost less. The goal should be to have better outcomes. However, when you look at the decrease in law enforcement response and prosecution and court time and all of these other things, it probably does work out that it costs less to do this. There are a series of state grants that have funded this particular work, and they run through the Washington Association of Sheriff and Police Chiefs, as well as the Healthcare Authority. And I also see a question from Teresa Alderson that says, is LEAD a statewide program? So the Recovery Navigator Program that's on the chopping block, that is the implementation of LEAD statewide. That is the opportunity for every community, every single county in Washington state to have access to this model. And it is a model. So how people engage with it is how it comes to fruition in a community. And we're hoping that we'll be able to keep that access and that infrastructure to address behavioral health issues across the whole entire state. But their implementation is funded through the HCA funding and WASPIC. Any other questions? Well, I'd like to thank the panelists very much for engaging today. And Brett, country girl to country guy, yep, it can work in small communities. I think that's the best place for LEAD to happen. But all right. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah,
Bye.
thank you so much, everyone. That was a great panel presentation, great conversation. Really appreciate everyone's time sharing it with the committee today and others. So much appreciated.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Tony, you want to introduce our next guest?
Yeah, perfect segue from experiences implementing LEAD in Jefferson County to experiences implementing Recovery Navigator Program as part of our statewide expansion of RNP and the LEAD model with the King County Behavioral Health Administrative Service Organization. So this is part of our monthly ongoing RNP highlight reel. And we have with us this month King County BHASO and Susan PC. And I don't know, Susan, if you have any guests that you're presenting with, but thank you first for your patience. We're 10 minutes behind schedule. My apologies for that. And so thank you for being flexible with the agenda. And we'll pass it off to you. And thanks for being here.
Hello, and is everyone able to see my screen?
Yes.
Great. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Thank you, and I really appreciate the time to be able to share a little bit about King County's RNP. We are embedded with LEAD. Seattle, as many may know, is the original site for LEAD. So when we stood up our Recovery Navigator program, we utilized existing programs. Today, I'm going to highlight all three of our programs. So King ASO or King County, we have three providers and all three will be presenting briefly today. Pure Washington, Community Passageways, and also REACH. So let me make sure I can. Okay, advance. May have to do this a little differently. Sorry about that. Wasn't able to advance. And the other. So I'm going to do the best I can with this. Are you still able to see, even though I can, great. Okay, so I wanted to talk about King County in general and both the size and scope. So King County is the largest region and county in Washington State. We often get viewed as being Seattle because that is such a large part of King County. But really I wanted to show the map of the entire county because when we started, it really was, we took that the mandate, this was statewide, this was for rural, this was for urban, and we really wanted to have a wider than just Seattle response. So here you see a bunch of different urban and rural areas of King County. So with that, I want each program to be able to highlight what they do. I've asked them to sort of talk about the aspects of their program in addition to return on investment. I think that's an important topic for today going into the budget that we know that it's the time that we have. The most important thing I want to say, Lee did a great job showing the true work of this program. And that is the true gem that is Recovery Navigator. But I think also having that more difficult conversation about how it is also saving our communities funds down the road. All right, so with that, I'm going to introduce the first group and Kimmy Reedy, who's the director of RNP at Pure Washington.
Thank you, Susan, and thank you, Malika, for the intro leading into this. Yes, the Recovery Navigator Program is a statewide effort against any folks with unmet behavioral health needs. It was brought forth by the Blake decision. It has been changed a little bit, but it is basically we are co-responders with law enforcement first and foremost. We show up, we help with, folks' initial crisis, whatever it is, but that's not it. Like, we don't just show up and scoop them away and then they're free to go. We literally walk beside them through whatever it is that they think that they need. And that's detox, treatment, housing. It could be employment, it could be phone, it could be getting mat-based assistance. I mean, just whatever it is that they're missing. And we really try to help them form natural supports so that they aren't going back, in the system repeatedly. So we also coordinate and communicate between regional R&P staff, law enforcement, prosecutors, medical providers, community partners. All of that is essential to the success of each individual. On this next slide, this is so I do have those numbers, Malika, and the link below, the waspc.org, is where you can find, based off of your county where you're at, what those costs are. So for King County, the average cost for being arrested is $13,607 per person. Average annual government cost of correction criminal justice system is $134,400 per person detained. And Pure Washington's Recovery Navigator Program has saved an estimated $8.1 million since startup in June of 2022, and that's just through September of 2024, and that's for people diverted, not going to jail, not in the court system. And anybody can find those numbers, based off of that link, and that's why I wanted to enter that here, so you can go and see what your return on investment is. It truly is an amazing program, and since I know a lot of folks, especially, legislation, Senate, all of that, they want to know the bottom dollar. Like, yes, we're spending this money, but guess what? It's coming back full force in many ways, and this is just the return on investment in the jail health services, right? For not being arrested, not going to court. That's not, I didn't add up the things, including 911 calls, fire and EMTs or emergency rooms, because we are implemented in all those. And I didn't want to take up too much time with slides because we know that they can be boring, but I did want to stick to the facts here so that, individuals were fully aware of what we are doing and how much we are saving. I have some graphics based off of our data. And these are some of the, you can see numbers there, 212 for the airport. Like, these are different precincts, how many, referrals we've gotten per each precinct. And then the next slide, I'm going to go through the slides real quickly because I do have some other things to share. So this one is just based off of people going into detox and treatment and what facilities we use, and how many have gotten into detox and treatment. I also wanted to say, because I didn't have time to show all of our plethora of data, but it is available to anybody at any time. The first quarter of 2025, we have had 368 new referrals, not re-referrals. These are new individuals being referred into the Recovery Navigator Program. As of last night, we have 26 referrals this month, and we have been doing over 100 referrals monthly for like the last 8 months. So that all being said, we have in this first quarter also helped 87 individuals engage in detox and treatment, 50 transitionally housed, and 12 permanently housed in their own place, their own apartment, so they're set up and they're in a good way. They can actually pay bills and they have tools and resources and things like that. I did want to, I heard Brett say that he had reservations. We heard that across the board when we first set up. And now people like, Scott Mandela and Tony Lockhart, and they're like, absolutely, you can't disappear. We got to figure out a way to keep this because it works. And for law enforcement to say that, it means something, because too many programs pop up, say we're here, and then disappear, right? They don't show up, like Brett was saying, at 2 o'clock in the morning, where the Recovery Navigator Program also does those things. We show up, we say we're going to be there, and we've never been out more than 45 minutes. And that is also in the rural community. Before we go on to the final slide, I wanted to ask Nikki Mogul to come off the mic and share one of our success stories. I was going to have somebody come and talk for themselves, but I know we are on a very small window here. So Nikki, if you could unmute and talk about the Enumclaw success story, I would appreciate that.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Nikki Mogul. I am a team manager with the Recovery Navigator Program in the South location. This is good timing. This last month, I had an update from an individual. This last year, Ryan, one of the other team members, and myself went to Enumclaw. They were going to be clearing an encampment in that area. When we got there, this individual had been living there for several years. He had actually built this immaculate tree house. It was pretty amazing looking. I remember looking at it thinking, wow, if this man really was doing something different with his life, he could really own his own company. He could build houses. He could do so many things. I was very impressed. I also remember seeing the look on his face because I related to that look at one time in my life before I got clean and sober. And he was saying goodbye to his home. And even though he was living in that area and had been living in those conditions, it was his home. We took him to detox that day. He went to treatment. He ended up leaving treatment due to an altercation. But a few days later, he had reached back out to Ryan and decided to go back into treatment. At that time, he stayed into treatment long term. He asked to be extended, which was amazing. When he got out, he transitioned into a recovery housing. From there, he obtained a job, got his driver's license back. We went and helped him gather the rest of his belongings that Enumclaw PD was holding for him, and they were very impressed because at one time he had been their problem child, as they called it. So that was pretty amazing. And then this last month, I want to say it was a month and a half ago, he reached out and let us know that he had just celebrated over a year clean and sober. So that was really amazing. But with that, we're a part of this every day. There are so many success stories like this, and it's just hard just to come up with one. But thank you.
Thank you, Nikki. And that's just, again, one of the success stories. Like we send them in, every month, every quarter. And as far as I know, it's public knowledge. Anybody here can reach out to any of the RMP programs, I'm sure. And we would love to discuss, the things that we are all doing. The last slide that I want to share with folks is our locations, hours of operations, and our referral process. So you can either email the referrals at recoverynavigatorprogram.org, or you can call the 1-800 number. We have a north location, which is up on Capitol Hill, 1520 Bellevue Avenue, but that is not our catchment area. It's just where our office is located. And then we have our south location on 9th Avenue. We are currently open. Oh, that is incorrect. I messed up. We are currently open from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. in person and up to midnight for calling. But either way, we're going to take that referral. We're going to show up and we're going to get individuals the help that they are looking for. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kimmy. I really appreciate that. Then my next partner that is up is Community Passageways. I love that each of our program has sort of a unique approach and style. You just heard from the program that has a very large catchment area. And next is I call them small but mighty. They're absolutely committed partners. And I love that we have a wide variety and diverse team. So next up is Shanice from Community Passageways.
Hello, everyone. My name is Shanice. I'm the Recovery Navigator Program of Community Passageways, and I'm just going to share who we are and how RNP fits into Community Passageways. So Community Passageways is not just another service provider, but we have really made a movement. Our mission is to end youth incarceration and racial injustice by creating alternatives that are rooted in accountability and healing. Today, we offer 12 different programs, from legal support and housing assistance to behavioral health, education navigation, and felony diversion. Now, RNP's role at Community Passageways is that we came into Community Passageways expanding the vision to include adults navigating reentry and survival. We brought in trauma-informed harm reduction work focused on stabilizing people often left behind by systems, those dealing with chronic homelessness, addiction, and legal barriers. Joining Community Passageways allowed the Recovery Navigator Program to deepen our impact and stand on the legacy of community-led transformation. And so on the next slide, we're going to talk about RNP. There we go. And so why we matter. So RNP is intentionally rooted in Berrien, Highline, and the CD area of Seattle. All three of these areas are with high rates of displacement, poverty, racialized policing, and systemic neglect. These places are not just places on the map, but they're communities that have been historically over-surveilled, but also under-supported. RNP is consistent in building trust, prevents crisis, and offers real alternatives to incarceration. That's why we call RNP a public safety program, because we reduce harm and stabilize lives. One of the ways RNP is making a measurable impact is by helping people avoid jail time for survival-rated crimes, things like trespassing, theft, disorderly conduct, and public intoxication. Roughly 90 of our 120 participants have avoided at least 10 days in detention, thanks to the Recovery Navigator Program, interventions, and support. So now I'm going to talk about the numbers. With the average cost of detention in King County being roughly $369 per day, it equates to an estimated savings of $3,690 per person. That's a total cost of $332,000 for over just 90 participants. And if I could have the next slide. So Marcus, that's not his real name due to privacy, but Marcus grew up in a neighborhood in the Central District area of Seattle, surrounded by substance abuse and violence. By the time he got to his late teens, he had already been arrested multiple times. And at that time that he came to us, he was already feeling hopeless and feeling like jail was his only options, or being on the streets. When Marcus was at his lowest, the RNP Navigator Program reached out to him without judgment. He was connected to housing support, mental health counseling, and job training. So at this point in time, Marcus has been sober over a year now. He's found stability and has not had any new arrests. So that's just one of our success stories this year, and it's just been really exciting to be a part of the Recovery Navigator Program.
Thank you so much, Denise. Great program, so much heart, and happy to have them as part of our team. Next up is REACH, and just to let everyone know, REACH has been doing this work since the beginning of LEAD, have tons of expertise, and really happy and proud to have them as part of our team here in King County. Would you like me to share your slides?
Sure, that'd be great. If it's hard to see, I can share screen as well on the Adobe version.
It looks like this. So if you want to share screen, I'm happy to let you take over. That might look a little better.
Okay, let's see. How does that look for folks? A little bit larger? Oh, will it let me?
For a second.
Folks able to see that?
I am.
Okay. Okay, great. Well, hello and thank you. Yes, thanks to the committee to everybody for giving us the opportunity to share briefly on the work of REACH's RNP program. My name is Michelle Conley, and I'm really grateful alongside my colleagues Brandy Flood and Paige Killinger here to be able to support the 14 specialized staff at REACH who have served over 2,000 individuals with RNP funding. As Susan mentioned, REACH has been around for about 28 years, operating on a model similar to RNP, and has been was the first social service provider of LEAD back in 2011. So we're very familiar with this work and really grateful for the capacity and expansion that RNP allowed us in the last few years. As many folks know well here, the RNP program has made significant progress statewide in reducing recidivism, advancing recovery, and improving public safety. And REACH's RNP work is a further example of those significant gains, some of which have been spoken by our prior partners. So operating on LEAD principles and the LEAD model at REACH, RNP funding has expanded our street-based diversion and 24-hour response and collaboration with law enforcement, specifically in the areas of Burien, West Seattle, and the Rainier Valley. As you can see in this snapshot graphic here, this program has been impactful in connecting with people who might otherwise be routed through the costly criminal legal system or intensive psychiatric systems, and diverting them to community-based care, where we have addressed foundational needs, as you can see here, connected people to healthcare, specifically much-needed behavioral health treatment, opened the door to housing, and resolved legal barriers to achieve stability. I'll let the numbers on this graphic speak for themselves as I turn our remaining time over to Paige to speak to the story of a specific REACH client who, were it not for RNP funding that has allowed us to expand access to low barrier psychiatric care for those who are the most vulnerable, would not be the success that she is today. I'll pass it to Paige.
Hi, y'all. My name's Paige Killinger, and I am one of the supervisors under the RNP umbrella at REACH. And I wanted to talk a little bit about a client that we have been working with for a little over 3 years now. We will call her BB. She came to us when her encampment was cleared. It was next to the courthouse. It was a big political shindig about getting these people out of this space. And so once she was removed there, she came over to us. When we started working with this client, it was very clear that she had very intense mental health behavioral issues. She had been barred from any of our community partners in the whole entire county because of her extremely violent outburst. The client had previously been receiving some light touch mental health services with some of our partners, but due to her not being allowed on the premises anymore, she was not receiving those and had not been receiving them for multiple years. With RMP money, we were one of the things that we got to bring on to our organization was we have our own behavioral specialist who can prescribe medication. It has changed the outcome of many, many, many of the clients that we work with in our organization, which we wouldn't have been able to do before without RMP. This client was able to build trust with us, and she was able to actually get her injectable mental health medication at our site, which is not, like I said, she wasn't able to get that. She was getting that medication from us for 6 months. And in that 6 months, she was able to repair her relationships with other organizations. She was able to repair relationships within her community. We were able to house her. She is now receiving that injectable medication. She's been on it for multiple years now. She is stably housed, and she is currently working on a resume for her first job. But she's able to get that medication from other facilities in our community, and she's able to just come to us for her case management and to work on some of those more long-term goals that she has. But this wouldn't have been a possibility for this young woman, if it wouldn't have been for this funding to bring on someone that can meet the needs of our clients where they're at and be able to kind of allow space for our clients to experience what they're going through, but also, helping them with some of this stuff. So that's her story. We love working with her, and I just saw her last week and she's doing well. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you. The last slide was just to show our Rainier Valley team and to mention that in 2023, RNP funded the opening of our Rainier office. And by 2024, there were 1,300 visits to that office, 80% of whom were folks of color. And this is that beautiful staff who were visited recently by a Seattle City Council member, Mark Solomon. So it gives you a snapshot of what that office looks like. And that's our presentation. Thanks so much.
All right, thank you, everyone. I just wanted to thank everyone that presented. Open it up if we had any time for questions. Great. And either way, I really appreciate the committee giving us some time today.
Susan, Michelle, Janice, others, thank you so much for your time today. That was a great presentation. I think we would love to get those PowerPoints out as part of the notes that we send out. We can also post them on the SURSAC web page. So if you can send the PowerPoint as well as the infographics, really appreciated the way that the RNP impact with community passageways and reach were outlined on those one pagers. I think those would be really helpful to get posted on our web page.
I'll send you all the slides. I'm happy to do it.
Thanks so much. We do have 5 minutes for any questions from committee members. So let's start there. Questions, comments from SURSAC, feedback.
Don't see any hands, Tony.
Thank you. And then real quick, we can open up for public comment, public feedback, or public questions.
No hands?
Okay. Well, thanks again to our presenters from King County BHASO, Community Passageways, REACH, and the Recovery Navigator Program out of Pierre, Washington. Really appreciate the time, as well as Lead Support Bureau coming with partners from Jefferson County. Great meeting, tons of really helpful information and just great summaries of the impacts that these programs have made across Washington State. With the 4 minutes that we have left, I'm just going to transition us out. As a reminder, we do have the Safe Supply listening session right after this. I think Sarah Melfi-Klein put a link into the chat earlier in the meeting. If anyone's interested, you can still sign up for the webinar. We would appreciate all sorts of feedback and input and participation in that listening session. We ran out of time to talk about our May agenda, but I believe we will be spending most of that time talking about the legislative session. As a reminder, it ends on April 27th. The House and the Senate have a task ahead of them with coming up with a budget, convening a budget that the governor's office supports. And so hopefully when we come back in May, we can talk about that budget and provide some updates. Teresa, go ahead. Sorry if I missed your hand.
Sorry, I just raised it. I just want to say, as a mother of a child struggling with behavioral health, addiction, and houselessness at times, how eye-opening this was. And I want to thank you guys, each and every one of you, from the bottom of my heart. I've felt alone in this struggle for a long time, and seeing your guys' empathy and compassion is amazing. And realizing that I'm not alone in this. There are so many people in the community, so many leaders fighting for the same thing I'm fighting for. Thank you, thank you. This is amazing, and I'm so happy that I attended.
Teresa, thanks so much for being here, and your words mean so much, and so glad that this was helpful as you support your loved ones And please continue to attend and please reach out as well if you want any more information about any of the programs that we talked about. Kelly, can you put our email address in the chat?
Like mine.
Like the HCA, yes.
Yeah. Yep.
And then thanks again, Teresa. And then Marshall.
Yes, I just wanted to kind of bring to the attention of the committee an ongoing issue that I've had working with folks in my outpatient competency restoration program who are experiencing symptoms of, psychiatric symptoms, usually around schizophrenia or bipolar, and are also experiencing SUD challenges. And I've had a really hard time advocating for them to get into treatment facilities that will work with them despite their psychiatric symptoms. Most of these folks, we're working with them with our provider to provide medication management. So they've been medicated, their baseline is symptomatic, and I've just had a real challenge getting any resources for them to be able to get SUD treatment. So I wanted to bring it to the attention of the committee. It's something maybe that you can have on your mind going forward to help find some resources or solutions to this issue. Thank you.
Marshall, thanks so much. Maybe we can connect offline as well. Kelly's going to put our kind of inbox, our email inbox in the chat. And for Marshall and Teresa and anyone else, attending these meetings, please feel free to reach out to the Healthcare Authority if you wanted to make a connection about any of the programs, or if you have any feedback about the content, or even want to suggest a topic for a future meeting. We definitely want this to be collaborative. Thank you all so much for your time. One thing we will just flagging, we may extend a future meeting in May by an hour. Committee members will send out an email to that point, but just wanted to flag that now. There's a lot to talk about. We always run out of time. So with that, thank you all so much. We're going to go ahead and conclude this meeting, and appreciate everyone's time today and experiences, and we'll see you in May.